get on this evening. Greetings and good evening. My name is Nancy Victor Green, and I am the president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated Manhattan chapter. And on behalf of our board of directors and members, I welcome you to our program this evening, Your Future, Your Money, FAFSA, and I'll explain what that means in a little bit, changes and college aid updates you need to know now. I want to thank our partner for this evening's program, for partnering with us on this evening's program, the National Council of Negro Women Incorporated, Queens County Section. For those of you who may not know what FAFSA is, it stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And it is a form that students in the United States fill out to determine their eligibility for financial aid, and you will hear about that in the presentation. We are here this evening to help simplify the sometimes confusing world of financial aid. Our expert, Vanessa Sparks, is here to guide us through recent changes to the FAFSA form and what they mean for you. We will also explore the latest information on college scholarships so you can make informed decisions about your education. The National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated is a 43-year-old non-for-profit advocacy organization. Our mission is to advocate for Black women and girls to promote leadership development and gender equity in the areas of health, education, and economic empowerment. The Manhattan chapter was chartered in December 1992, and there are currently 63 NCBW chapters in the US. Thank you for joining us this evening. And now I want to turn it over to Jennifer Jackson to introduce our guest speaker, Vanessa Sparks.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for attending. I'm so excited this evening with this information that we're about to receive from Vanessa Sparks. I met Vanessa Sparks about two and a half years ago on a webinar just like this, when my son was going through his college search. And the information that I learned there that evening, the tips, the strategies, I was able to bring that back to my son, to our family, apply that. And Vanessa, I'm truly indebted to you, because I don't think my son will be at this college he is now without your help. I mean, it made it so much more affordable for where he's going to now. And thank you so much. So grab a pen and a piece of paper to take some notes. You are going to get some valuable information this evening. You don't want to miss anything. Miss Vanessa Sparks, she is a powerhouse. So while you're grabbing your pen and your paper, I'm going to give you a little bit of info on Miss Vanessa Sparks. Vanessa L. Sparks' work focuses on parent and student advocacy and providing families information and access on post-secondary financial aid process. Ms. Sparks has assisted families with the college admissions and financial aid process for 25 years. Her training in financial aid mentorship includes the U.S. Department of Education, the College Access Consortium of New York, Davidson College, and Goodridge Riverside Options College Access Program. Ms. Sparks continues to sponsor and coordinate financial aid seminars and career-based trips. Ms. Sparks is the resident financial aid facilitator for the National College Resources Black College Expo, which is a national-based college access program. The Staten Island NAACP I Love My HBCU College Fair, the First Baptist Church of Crown Heights Hospitality Committee College and Career Day, and the Greater Allen AME Cathedral Commission on Social Action College and Career Day. Ms. Sparks has served as the Queensborough President appointee to the Community Education Council for District 28 and served as its first vice president. Ms. Sparks is the past treasurer for the NAACP Jamaica branch. Ms. Sparks is the NAACP Metropolitan Education Community Chair and the Education Chairperson for the National Action Network Queens chapter. Currently, Ms. Sparks is a member of the Community Board 12 Education Committee in Queens and is a founding member of the HBCU Parent Association Incorporated NYC in Queens, New York, and the Staten Island HBCU Experience College Fair. During the COVID-19 pandemic and shutdown, Ms. Sparks continued and expanded her reach to educate and inform students and families about the student financial aid process through virtual workshops and information sessions that were seen by families across the country. In June 2020 and October 2020, Ms. Sparks, along with Tammy Gear Brown of the Staten Island HBCU Experience, sponsored a professional development series, bringing together over 100 New York City area high school guidance counselors and college access professionals with over 30 HBCU admissions representatives to educate counselors about a variety of historically Black colleges and universities. Additionally, in August 2021, Ms. Sparks conducted an in-person student financial aid workshop in Texas at the invitation of 100 Black men of Western Texas. Ms. Sparks is a recipient of the College Board New York Outreach Unit Making the Difference Award. Ms. Sparks is a recipient of the African American Caribbean Education Association Incorporated Lifetime Achievement Award. Ms. Sparks has also been recognized by Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Epsilon Pi Omega Chapter as Community Leader of the Year. Ms. Sparks is the recipient of the Jeremiah C. Gaffney Citizen Award and the Black College Expo Community Volunteer Award for her work in the areas of college access and student financial aid, specifically for high school students interested in pursuing careers in medicine and engineering. Ms. Sparks has attended CUNY Queens College, CUNY School of Professional Studies, and SUNY Empire State College. Ms. Sparks was employed by the New York State Department of Health Children and Adult Care Food Program as a health program administrator and was also an employee assistant program coordinator for the New York State Department of Health Metropolitan Region. Now retired, after 32 years of working for the state of New York, Vanessa Sparks resides in Jamaica, Queens, and is a mother, mother-in-law, and proud grandmother of 2 granddaughters. Please join me in welcoming Vanessa L. Sparks.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Jackson, Madam President Green. I was looking around, I'm like, who are they talking about? Because I said, what are they talking about? So good evening. My name is Vanessa Sparks. I am a student financial aid mentor. I assist families and students navigate and understand what can sometimes be intimidating and daunting student financial aid process. So I'm going to jump right into it because we're going to start off by talking about the FAFSA. And Ms. Green gave such a phenomenal explanation on what the FAFSA is. It is the free application for student aid. It is the main application that's used by families to determine their eligibility for both federal aid, state aid, institutional aid, and what some people don't know, even some scholarships require it. So before we get started, let me just tell you what the FAFSA does not do. The FAFSA does not give you money. The FAFSA is the tool, the main tool used by the federal government, by the state government, by the college or institution you're going to attend, as well as some scholarship programs to determine your eligibility for need-based aid. And that's all it is. So I'm going to start to share my screen. So what we're first going to do is go over free application for student aid, aka FAFSA, because there have been some monumental changes made for school year 24-25. And then we're actually going to go through a FAFSA prototype. For those of you who have not seen the FAFSA, you'll get to see what the FAFSA looks like. So I'm going to share my screen. Just give me one moment. And it may be a lag. It may be a lag, but I hope you all can see this. And just really quickly, the financial aid forms. And if you see that I have 5 forms listed. The free application for student aid, also known as the FAFSA, the New York State Higher Education Service Corporation, aka TAP application, and that's for students that are New York State residents that will be attending college in the state of New York. There's also another application called the CSS profile, and that only needs to be completed if you are attending certain colleges. There's a non-custodial profile, which is a CSS profile for divorced parents. And then each college sometimes have their own institutional forms. But tonight we're going to focus primarily on the FAFSA. So let's see, this is going to go. And of course, we're gonna go. Let's go. Let's go. Just one moment. Everything wants to act a little crazy. Okay, here we go. All right. So what is the FAFSA? The FAFSA, I have to go here. Let's see here. Okay, let me just try to go back and share my screen. Okay, here we go. All right. The free application for student aid, aka FAFSA, determines your student aid index, and we're going to talk about the student aid index in a moment, and determines your eligibility to receive federal financial aid. The FAFSA is also required for most state, institutional, and private student financial programs. States and colleges determine their filing of the FAFSA deadlines. Colleges use the information from the FAFSA to determine your financial award. So the FAFSA usually opens up on October 1st, but this year for school year 2024-2025, so that's for students that will be in college in the fall of 2024 and the spring of 2025. It opened, I have here December because initially it was supposed to open December, but this year it actually opened January 1. The FAFSA can be filed anytime during the academic year, but cannot be filed earlier than December 2023 for school year 24-25, prior to the academic year for which the aid is requested. So let me just put that in layman's terms. Here's layman's terms. This year is a unique year because this FAFSA that rolled out this year has the biggest changes that the federal government have implemented in the FAFSA in 40 years. So I'm just going to tell everybody right from the beginning, this year is a unique year and it cannot be used as an example for subsequent years to come. If you have a student that will be starting college or post-secondary education in the fall, or a returning student and you have not filed your FAFSA, I'm going to encourage you to file it ASAP. The other thing is the FAFSA is free. Some families will pay a consultant to file their FAFSA. You don't pay anybody to complete this form because there's nothing they can do by someone else completing this form that will get you more money. So if you're paying, or if you're thinking about paying someone a consultant, there are people out there that say, they'll charge you a fee. You don't need to do that. The FAFSA is free. Okay. All right. So all right. I have to do it like this. This is the new FAFSA landing page. This is what it looks like. The website is www.studentaid.gov. Anything that you're doing as it relates to FAFSA, make sure the domain is .gov. Do not go to FAFSA.com. Do not go to studentaid.com. It is studentaid.gov. And as you can see from this landing page, it gives you the option to start a new form or access a form that you've already started. And it's chock full of information as it relates to the federal student financial aid process. So let's talk about some new things on the FAFSA. As I said in the beginning, the U.S. Department of Education, which is the administrator of the FAFSA and the Federal Student Aid Program, launched back in 2021 something called the FAFSA Simplification Act that was passed by Congress. So it is the biggest change to this form in 40 years. And it's caused a lot of anxiety and angst. And as I said earlier, my job is to help demystify. So let's talk about what's new on the new FAFSA. There are fewer questions on the new FAFSA. The old FAFSA had a total of about 108 questions. The new FAFSA has only 37. And that is between the parent section and the student section. So there are fewer questions on the FAFSA. There are some new questions that they have asked, and they're optional, and it relates to identification of your gender, your race, and your ethnicity. And those questions that are asked are only asked on the student section, and they are completely optional. But that's something new. Also, the new FAFSA will allow students to list up to 20 colleges. In the past, students were only able to list up to 10 colleges. The new FAFSA allows students to list up to 20 schools on their FAFSA. And what that means is whatever schools you list on your FAFSA, that's who the federal government will send your information to. Also, I don't have it here. The FAFSA will eventually be in 11 languages. Right now, it's only in 2, English and Spanish, but over the next 2 or 3 years, it will, when it's fully implemented, it will be offered in 11 languages, the most commonly used 11 languages in the United States. Something else that's new is the Direct Data Exchange, or the DDX. That's replacing the IRS data retrieval tool. So for those families that have filed the FAFSA last year or the year before, you know there was something called the IRS data retrieval tool that allowed the U.S. Department of Education to pull your information from the IRS database and drop it into your FAFSA. Well, that's still being done, but it's called the DDX, or the Direct Data Exchange. And what's also different this year is that you will not have the option to manually enter your information as in years past. You have to grant permission, both you and the student, even if the student didn't file a tax return, or even if you didn't file a tax return, you have to grant permission to the federal student aid program to be able to extract your information from the IRS. If you do not give permission, the application will not be processed and your student will not be considered for any federal aid. So that's something that's very different. The definition of family size has changed. So in the past, they would ask you not solely the number of people in your household. Well, this year it's a little different. They're going to ask about the number of people in your household, but they're going to also see, once they access your tax return, how many dependents are on your tax return. So that's something that's very new this year. You still should include the student as a member of the household, yourself and your spouse if you have a spouse, any other children that live in the household that you're caring for, and any other what they call qualifying relative. So qualifying relative is someone over the age of 19 that you've been provided at least half of their support. But they are going to look at the number of dependents that is on the tax return. Something else that's new that's been introduced, the term contributor is introduced, and it refers to anyone that's required to provide information on the FAFSA. So that's the student's spouse if they have one, the parent or parents, and the parent's spouse if it's a case of step parents. So just so you know, if you are in a household where you live with one parent and that parent is married to someone other that's not your biological parent, that step parent must also provide their information. So I want to say that again. Step parents, if they live in a household, or I need to just go back a little bit, something else that has changed. It is no longer just a custodial parent that has to fill out the FAFSA. In years past, it would be the custodial parent that would fill out the FAFSA. The new FAFSA requires the parent that provides most of the support. Now, in most cases, that is the custodial parent, but there are those rare occasions that the non-custodial parent provides most of a student's financial support. And if that is the case, that is the parent that will complete the FAFSA. And if that parent has a spouse, that parent's spouse must also submit their information. I see some faces going like, what? Yeah. So that's a big change. As I said, in most cases, the custodial parent is the parent that provides most of the financial support. But if it's a case where the non-custodial parent is the one that provides most of the financial support for the student, that it is that parent and their spouse, if they have one, that have to complete the FAFSA on the new FAFSA. Something else that has been introduced that's brand new, and we're going to talk about it, is called the introduction of the Student Aid Index, or the SAI, and it is replacing what used to be called the Expected Family Contribution, or EFC. So this is now it's not a dollar figure so much, it's an index that's given once you complete your FAFSA and the formula has been applied. So the new FAFSA also, and I'm not going to get into this part, but there are now two different formulas that the federal government uses. They use one formula for single parent households, and they use another formula for two-parent households. And that is whatever formula is applied to you based upon the information you provide, you will be assigned something called an SAI. The lowest amount is negative 1,500. So if you receive an SAI anywhere between 0 and negative 1,500, you will receive the maximum amount of a federal Pell Grant. And then there's something that they're introduced this year, or yes, it introduced, is the implementation of two terms: unusual circumstances and special circumstances. So unusual circumstances are applied to students who, for certain reasons, cannot obtain information from their parents. And those three, the most common examples are parental abandonment, if a parent is incarcerated, or if the student going to the parent to retrieve information will put the student in physical harm, and i.e. abuse. In those cases, you would indicate that on the new FAFSA, and you will be given what is called a provisional independent status, meaning you will not have to provide any parental information. And if that is the case, if you are given provisional independent status, you then would have to present documentation to whatever college you're going to. So if you have a case where your parent has abandoned you, they're not on the scene, you would have to provide documentation that says such. If you have an incarcerated parent or parents, you would have to provide documentation that shows that your parent is indeed incarcerated. And if it's a case of abuse, severe abuse, you would have to also provide documentation to the schools that you are applying to. If that information wouldn't go to the federal government, it instead would go to the colleges that you're applying to or the college that you're attending. Now, once you've been given provisional status and you have substantiated that, you will continue to be an independent student throughout your college career. Special circumstances are circumstances where the financial information that's provided is very different than the current situation. So for example, under the new FAFSA, people that have multiple children in college at the same time, that is no longer a consideration. They used to take, if a family had 2 or more children in college at the same time, they would apply a different formula. That's no longer the case. What instead a family could do is indicate they have a special circumstance. And that special circumstance would be they have another child or other children in college, and they would document it there. Or if your tax return says one thing, but you may have your parent may have lost a job or lost income, or you've had an addition to the family. That's a special circumstance. And in both cases, it is now mandated that the financial administrator at the college apply something called professional judgment, which means they are required now to look at those cases and take those special circumstances into consideration. Okay. So the student aid index, this is a big one. So the student aid index is, as I said, it's an index number that is given once you complete your FAFSA, and it is used to determine how much federal aid you will get. So I'm gonna make this real easy. Right now, the maximum Pell Grant is $7,395. If a student has a SAI between -1,500 and 0, they just set it at 0. That 0 is subtracted from $7,395, and that student will receive the maximum amount of a Pell Grant. If your SAI is between at least $1 and up, that amount is then subtracted from that $7,395. So for example, if a family receives a student aid index of $3,000 after completing the FAFSA, $3,000 would be subtracted from $7,395, leaving $4,395, and that is what you would receive in a Pell Award. So that is very, very new. Just some other things. It's the United States Congress that determines the formula for the student aid index. As I said, this year there are two formulas, one for one-parent households and one for two-parent households. The way the student aid index is comprised, it takes three things into consideration. It takes the parent's income and the parent's assets, and it takes the student's income and the student's contribution from assets. Now, really simple, what that means is, if you are a 17-year-old student and you don't have a job, there's nothing, you will put 0, there's nothing for them to consider. On the parental side, they will look at the parents' adjusted gross income as per their tax return, any assets that they list. So let me explain to you what an asset is and isn't for purposes of FAFSA. An asset is any money in a checking account, savings account, investment property, money market accounts. If someone has a something called, well, I'm going to hold on that. Those are what assets are. What an asset is not, it is not the value of the home you live in. So if your family owns a home, that is not considered an asset. It's not considered an asset. Any money that you have in an IRA, if the parent has in their IRA or 401k, is not considered an asset. Those are not assets. But I will tell you something that is new that is considered an asset. Child support is now considered an asset. It is not considered income. It is considered a parental asset. So if you receive child support, whatever you receive is considered an asset. Okay? Also, for those families that have a college savings account, a 529 college savings account, and if you don't have one, and particularly if you have younger children, I'm going to encourage you to get it. It's a great savings tool for college. In the past, if someone had a 529 on a student and they made a distribution towards the student's education, the following year it was counted as income for the student. That is no longer the case. It is not counted as income if there's a distribution made by someone other than the parent or step-parent. So if grandparents and aunts, uncles, cousins, godparents, and people down the street have a 529 for your student, they are the owner of the account. Your student is the beneficiary of the account. There is no penalty, no penalty to the student. Now, if you, the parent or step parent, have a 529 for your student, it is considered a parental asset. So that's the part where it's not, the student is not penalized, so to speak. That is new. So I would encourage everyone to get a 529 if they have children or grandchildren. But I would tell you, I would advise you to, you don't be the account holder. Let grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, cousin, someone other than you. There was just some articles that were put out today about this. And it is in the best interest to let someone other than the parent be the account holder for 529. So the student aid index, or SAI, remains the same regardless of the college. So it doesn't matter if you go to Lehman College, if you go to Harvard University, if you go to Howard University, whatever that student aid index is, it remains the same. And again, the student aid index is calculated using the information provided in the FAFSA. So there's a couple of things you also need to know about the FAFSA. Dependent students, and I have a slide, but I'm not going to go to it, that tells you what a dependent versus an independent student is, but I'm going to tell you. Excuse me, for purposes of student financial aid, a dependent student, this is someone who must provide their parents' information. And parent is biological, adoptive, and step parent, if there's a step parent. Anyone under the age of 24 years old that is financially supported by a biological, adoptive, or step parent are pursuing an undergraduate degree. That is a dependent student, and that student must provide their parent information, parental information, I'm sorry. An independent student is anyone over the age of 24. If a student is in graduate school, if they're going for their master's or a professional degree, a JD, a PhD, or MD, even if they're 20 or 21 years old, they are still considered, they are then considered an independent student. If a student is married, there are some students that are 17 or 18 and they're married, they are an independent student. If a student is a veteran, if they are a veteran, or if they're in the armed services, they are an independent student. If a student is the award of the courts, they are an independent student. If a student is in what they call a legal guardianship situation, and I just want to spend a little time on that because we have a lot of that in our community. So a student may have always lived with their grandparents or someone other than their biological parents, and there may be a legal guardianship in place. That student is an independent student. And I really want to impress upon that because sometimes grandparents have custody of their grandchildren and they think they have to provide their financial information. And most of the time, grandparents don't mind doing it. But just so you know, if you work with students that fall in that category, no one has to provide any financial information. That student is automatically independent. And then earlier, I talked about those unusual circumstances where it would turn what would normally be a dependent student to an independent student, okay? So dependent students are required to provide income and other information from both their legal parents if their parents live together, even if their parents are not married. Now, there's some cases where people cohabitate, they have children, but they're not married. If the student is the child of both of them, both parents must provide information, even if the parents are not married. Students that have divorced or separated or never married parents, I spoke about it earlier. It is the parent that provides the most support that completes the FAFSA. Now, in most cases, it is the custodial parent, but for those few times, that rare occasion that is a non-custodial parent that provides most of the financial support, that parent would be the one that completes the FAFSA. And again, independent students are not required to provide income and other information from parents or guardians. Okay, so kind of went over that. I'm gonna have everyone look at a FAFSA. We're gonna go through a FAFSA simulation, but I just want to let you know the first thing you need to do to apply for the FAFSA is you have to get something called an FSA ID. Both the student and, if required, the parent or parents must have an FSA ID. So I'll give you an example. If a student lives with their parents, mom and dad, and or their parents, parent A and parent B, that's what I'm going to say. And parent A and parent B are married, and parent A and parent B file a joint tax return. The student would have to have a FSA ID, and only one of the parents, it could be mom or dad, whoever, if they file a joint return. If parent A and parent B are married, but their filing status is married filing separately, it would be 3 people that would have to have an FSA ID. The student, parent A, and parent B. Okay? But the FSA ID, it is what's used to access your FAFSA, to update your FAFSA. It serves as an electronic signature for anything to do with your federal student financial aid. That's anything from applying to a student loan, a federal student loan. It applies to, there's some financial aid programs, and maybe we'll get to talk about it tonight, that require you sign a contract to receive that money. You would use your FSA ID. It's your electronic signature, okay? And once you get it, you don't have to change it. Now, some families may have, or they may have had an FSA ID many years ago. So if they apply for an FSA ID, what they may get is that there's one that's already been assigned. If that is the case, you just follow the prompt, because you'll probably need to update it because you don't remember the number. Most of us don't, from many years ago. And this is where you go to apply for your FSA ID, studentaid.gov/FSA ID. If you are a junior or the parent of a junior, I would encourage you to get this in around July or August. The latest is September, because the information that's provided is then filtered through the IRS database, Homeland Security, there's another one, and the Social Security Administration, to make sure that you are who you say you are. So I would encourage you, you used to be able to file for an FSA ID while you were completing your FAFSA for the first time. And with all of the problems, and I have to tell you this year, there are a lot of problems with this rollout. I would encourage you, if you are an 11th grader or the parent of an 11th grader, to get your FSA ID July, August, the latest September, okay? Okay, and this is what it looks like. So I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. I'm gonna take a couple of questions, if that's all right, Madam President. And then I'm going to log on to the FAFSA prototype so everyone can see what it looks like. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so, okay, there we go. All right. So I did see a question. I don't know if there's someone monitoring the chat, how you want to do it, because there may be a couple of questions that I'll take before we go into the prototype. I thought I saw a question. Okay, so maybe I didn't see a question. So I'm going to go right into the FAFSA prototype. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Okay, so I hope everyone could see. There is a question. I don't know why there is a question. Okay. I guess this is for the ladies of the organization. They wanted to know about receiving a recording of the presentation. So I guess that's something you would need to speak with the organizers about.
If you're agreeable, Vanessa, we can work that out. We can make that work.
Okay. All right. So can everyone see this here that says, for demonstration purposes only, And it says federal student aid.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm just gonna go through the prototype. So remember I told you we saw what the landing page looked like, and if you're doing this for the first time, it would be create a new FAFSA. You're going to get this because you have to log on, and you log on with, as I told you, your FSA ID. So you see what it looks like. This has already been pre-populated, so I didn't put this information in because it's for demonstration purposes only. But as you can see, if you forget your username, if you forget your password, if you need to create an account, it's all right here. Okay. The federal government has been real icky the past month, so we're gonna, do this. So this is the landing page. This is what the new landing page looks like. And there's a lot of information here, and you can see a lot of information if you have questions where you can just click on and get the answers to many of your FAFSA questions. Okay. This information on who should complete it, how long will it take, what documents you'll need. All of that information is found here. If you want to check the deadline for the FAFSA, so you would put the school year because each state has a different FAFSA deadline. Now, it's always important to know if you are applying to a school in another state, you really need to check what is the FAFSA deadline for that state. So if you're applying to a college in Georgia, you would need to find out when is the Georgia FAFSA filing date, because it would probably be different. It is different than New York. And you want to make sure that you have your FAFSA in by that state's filing date. So let's get this started. Okay, so once you log on, you see here, and this is a prototype. It says, welcome Rhea. Once you log in under your password, it will say, welcome Nancy, or welcome Jennifer, or welcome Vanessa, however I log on using my username, it's going to give me a welcome. And you see two prompts here. I'm starting the FAFSA form as either a student or a parent. Now, something else that's new about this year's FAFSA. In years past, it would allow someone to start a FAFSA if you were the student, if you were the parent, or if you were a counselor or a consultant. That option is no longer available. It's either you can start it as a student or you can start it as a parent, meaning the student doesn't have to be the person to start the FAFSA. It could be the parent that starts the FAFSA. So for purposes of this exercise, we're going to pretend like we're the student. And as again, I said, this is all pre-populated. So you're going to get all of those things here, and you're going to look up here with the little picture with the little cap and gown, and the student, it would have the student's name here. And the first couple of pages is just information. If the U.S. Department of Education, they have a YouTube channel where you can go and get questions answered on a number of topics around FAFSA, and you can click it on here if you want. So earlier I talked about the term contributor, right? Because that's a new term this year, contributor. And this year, if I start the FAFSA as a student, it will ask me a series of questions that you will see here. And then it will tell me that I have to invite my parent or my parents. And I would have to put their email addresses in, and they would be sent an email from the Federal Student Aid to accept my invitation to complete their section of the FAFSA. Now, the invitee, which would be the parent in this case, must accept the invitation. If the parent does not accept the invitation, the FAFSA won't be processed, even if the student completes their section. Or if I start the FAFSA as a parent, I would then have to put in my student's information, and my student would be then sent an email requested that they've been invited to complete their section of the FAFSA. If they decline, no FAFSA is going to be processed. So that's also something new. But this here talks about who the contributors are, parents or spouses. Now, most students graduating high school do not have a spouse. If they did have a spouse, they would not have to receive their parents' information, because remember, if a student is married, it doesn't matter how old they are, they're independent. But this goes over to tell you who a contributor is, excuse me, if it's a parent or a spouse. And then this here explains how to invite someone. And again, it would the contributor. So if you are the student that's starting the FAFSA and an invitation is sent to your parent would have to accept it. Your parent would also have to have their own FSA ID in order for them to complete their section. So again, this is just some more information on how long it takes. And it says it takes about an hour, but truth be told, you can actually do this in under an hour. But this is just information that they put here. And this tells you what happens after the submission of the FAFSA. Now, under normal circumstances, it only takes about 3 days to process. But this year is a unique year. So just so you know, this year, the federal government isn't even sending the information to the colleges until next month. But this is an exceptional year, okay? So just know that going forward, everything should be then go back to normal, meaning the FAFSA will open up October 1st. It will take 3 to 5 days to process. But just know for this year, there are a lot of problems, and it's not on you, the parents' end. So I've opened it up, so I've started it. And as you can see, there's a lot of information that's already been pre-populated. The student's name, the student's date of birth, the student's social security number, the student's email address, the student's mobile number. And this information was obtained through that FSA ID. Excuse me. The section here allows you to put the information in: permanent mailing address, zip code, country, because this information isn't asked for the FSA ID. So that's why it gives you the option to, the opportunity to put that information in. Make sure your permanent mailing address for students, and I usually say this to students, is where you live and where your mail goes to. State of legal residence. And as I said, this is already pre-populated, and you would just click on this and it would list all of the states. And you would click it. Well, I'm speaking primarily to a New York audience, so it would be New York. The date the student became a legal resident of New York. If you were born in New York, so we're just going to use this exercise. I'm trying to think, I'm getting old now. If you're 18 years old, what year were you born in? Like 2008 or something like that? Or 2009? I'm just going to put 2000. I'm going to put no, I take that back. I'm going to put 2003. I don't know. My daughter's old and I'm old. So, just forgive me. I'm old. She's old. I hope she's not on because she's going to talk about me. Don't be telling people I'm old. You're over 40, you're old. And then you will get this here. Provide consent and approval or be ineligible for federal aid. So remember, I told you that you have to grant permission now for them to access your tax information. If you say no, when you have a right to say no, understand that FAFSA won't be processed. And this is, frequently asked questions about this. So, and then you get to the bottom and you see the decline or approve. If you wish to move forward, you would click approve. So it asks you about personal circumstances, and it tells you it's going to ask you a few questions about your personal circumstance. Now, remember, we started this as the student, right? The student. It's going to ask student's current marital status, whatever is applicable. This is a 17, 18-year-old kid, they're not married, they're single. The student college or career plans, when the student begins in 24, 25. So remember, fall of 24, spring of 25. What will be their college grade? If you are a first-year student, meaning you are a high school senior now, you're going to graduate in June, and then the end of August, you'll be in college, you would be a first year, a freshman. If you are a returning student and it's your second year, you would click sophomore, juniors and beyond would click other undergraduate. If you're going for a professional degree, you know, a master's, a JD, PhD, ED, etc., you would click that. Next question, when the student begins the 24-25 school year, will they have their first bachelor's degree? And if you're graduating from high school in June, you will not have your first bachelor's degree by spring of 2025, so that would be no. If it was a returning student, they would click whatever is applicable. Come on. Come on. Okay. So earlier I spoke about personal circumstances, right? This is what determines whether you're a dependent or an independent student. And it asks all of these questions. Are you on active duty in the U.S. Armed Services? Are you a veteran? Do you have children that you're supporting? If after the age of 13, you were an orphan, anytime since the age of 13, you were a ward of the court. At any time since age 13, where you're in foster care, where you are a legally emancipated minor, or if you are in legal guardianship with someone other than your parents. And I always want to talk about these last couple of ones because we have a lot of students in our community that fall in those categories. And sometimes their families don't know what they should select, okay? And if none of these apply, I'm sorry, if none of these things apply to you, you will click none of these apply. And I want people to jump in with questions. Please jump in with questions. I like this to be interactive. Student other circumstances. This asks if the student was an unaccompanied minor or homeless or self-supporting. This does not apply to a student living in temporary housing with their family. This applies to students that are homeless on their own or they are at risk. The student, not students that live in like a family shelter situation with their parents. This is for students, this question is for students that are either homeless, for whatever reason, they're homeless and they're self-supporting and they're at risk of being homeless. Wait a minute, I shouldn't be a dependent student. Hold on, let me just go back. I think I put the wrong year in. That's why I told y'all to help me. I said I'm old. You gotta tell me the year. Hold on. I know it was because the year of birth. Let me just go back.
I think it's 2006.
Okay, I had to. I said I'm not sure now. I have to go back. Let me just see here. Because what should have come up for that was a dependent student. So it was something. I didn't put the year of birth in, but we're going to keep moving. We're going to keep moving. And remember, I told you this has been a hot mess for the past month. So even their prototype is okay. None of those apply. Because based on these answers, this would be a dependent student. Okay. We're just gonna keep rolling. I don't know what's wrong with it, but we're at the student section, okay? So if it said dependent, it would tell you to put the parents' information. So remember I told you they added some questions. You don't have to answer them. These are more for informational purposes, demographics. You would, answer questions about your gender, about your ethnicity, whatever your ethnicity is. It would ask you about your race. And even depending on what you put, you get this drop down box. If you indicate that you're Black or African American, then it gives you these choices. Are you African American, Jamaican, Haitian, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Somali? If none of those apply, you would click that there. You would put that there. And these are new. These are new questions. And you also have the option to prefer not to say. It will ask you about your citizenship, because if you indicate that you're neither a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen, the next one will tell you that you cannot apply for aid. So this student is a U.S. citizen. Yeah, this is, I don't know what the prototype, because it just asks about the parent's education status. And they ask this question because they want to see how many first generation students are applying. So if the student's parent, if neither parent attended college, they would click that. If one or both parents attended college, but neither parent completed, they would click that. If one or both parents completed college, they would click that. If the student doesn't know, they would click that. So I'm just going to click this one. Now, this is also new because there's a financial aid program for students who have a parent killed in the line of duty if they were in the military or performing their duties as a public officer. So if they were a police officer or a correction officer, I'm sorry, an emergency service person, anyone that has a parent that was killed in the line of duty, and that includes all law enforcement, firefighters, and emergency service workers, because there's a separate pot of federal money for students that fall in that category. And unfortunately, if that's that case, they would click yes. Otherwise, they would select no. Okay. I'm just going to go over the students section, and then I'm going to take questions. Student high school completion status. What will be the student's high school completion status at the beginning of 2024-25? So that means this fall. If you are just graduating high school, you would click that. If you have a GED or other state recognized high school equivalent, you would select that. Homeschooled, select that. None of the above, select that. I'm being mindful of the time. But if it's okay with y'all, it's okay with me. You would put the name of the state of your high school. Like I said, this is pre-populated, so you're going to see some crazy things. New York. You would put the city. You see these cities. I'm just gonna pick something out. Wait, hold on. I just saw it. New York. And just so you know, New York, when you see that, means Manhattan. Means Manhattan. And the school name. And this is what was pre-populated. But in the real FAFSA, you'll get a whole bunch of names, okay? You would then click search, or it popped up. And if that is your school, you would select it. And they ask this question because the federal government keeps data on how many students from each school in the country is doing a FAFSA. This also gives you the opportunity to edit it if you need to edit it. Finances. Now this has to do with the student's finances, because remember, we're doing the student section. And keep in mind, this example is a high school senior. So, but this I did want to show you because this pops up on the parent section too. So if you receive certain benefits, you're going to receive what they call an automatic zero EFC. It's called the Simplified Needs Test. If you receive, well, a couple of things. This may appear, but this is now taken out on the real FAFSA. But if the family receives TANF, that's temporary aid to needy families, AKA welfare. If they receive SNAP, supplemental nutrition aid program, AKA food stamps. If they receive Medicaid, if the family, and when I say the family, speaking of the parent, receives SSI, if they receive WIC. But this is new this year, federal housing assistance. So what we will most know in New York, federal housing assistance program is if someone receives Section 8. If they receive Section 8, That's a federal housing assistance program. That's new. If you are the recipient of one or more of those, you were selected, that student would get what they call an automatic zero, which means they would get the maximum Pell Grant award. Okay? And if none of these apply, you would just put none of these apply. And remember, this prototype was done, they put this out in November. So some of the things they've changed. Family size. Is the student's family size different than the number of individuals claimed on their 2022 tax return? So remember, I talked about the number of dependents. The answer may be yes, the answer may be no. And this is, and so what the parent would have to know, I have 4 dependents, myself and 3 other dependents. If that's what your tax return is, and that's who actually lives in your house, then your answer would be no. If your tax return says that you have 4 dependents, including the parent, but you also have 3 other people that live here, then your answer, would be yes. And if you select yes, it gives you the opportunity to add this. So it asks, enter the number of children or other dependents. And I'm not going to put anything here because this is the student section, but this same screen pops up on the parent section, okay? So for purposes of this, we're just going to put no so we can move along. The number of people in college. So this is where you put the number of people in college. Now, this is on the student side. How many people in the student's family will be, including the student, will be in college between July 1 and June 30th, 2025. And just so you know, for federal student aid purposes, the year goes from July 1 to June 30th. I just want to, put this and move this along because I want to take some questions. Okay, come on. This is when it's going to ask about tax return. Now, this is for the student. Now, remember I said it doesn't ask you about what's in your IRA or your, this has to do is if you have rollovers. And those of you that received a rollover, you know what it is. But this is the student, so it's going to be all zeros. And don't leave any blanks. If it's not applicable to you, just put 0. Student assets. Now, I want to talk a little bit what's also new on the FAFSA. There's something called the income protection allowance. And what it does is there's a certain amount of money the federal government will exclude in this formula for your SAI. So for parents, the income protection threshold is currently $38,895. So let me tell you what that means. Let's say your adjusted gross income is $80,000, and you list that you have $10,000 in assets. So that would make $90,000, correct? What they do is subtract $38,895. And what is left, that's what the formula is applied to. That's on the parent side. On the student side, the income protection threshold, I think, is $9,895. But as you can see, the parental threshold is much higher, okay? So another thing I'm going to say when we talk about assets, and first of all, I tell people, do not lie on this. It's not worth it. Do not lie. However, one of the assets, in assets, they ask, how much do you have in your checking, savings, money market account? I always say to families, a checking account is fluid. You can have $5,000 in there today, and tomorrow morning write checks totaling $4,999. Then how much do you have in your checking account? $1, right? So I always say to parents, because the checking account goes like this, right? It's very fluid. So if you've got, let's say you may have $10,000 in your checking account, but by the end of the week, you're going to write out $9,000 worth of checks. If you know that at the time you complete the FAFSA, you got to put something there, put $1,000, not 10. because by the end of the week, you're not going to have $10,000. I don't know why everybody's calling me now. But your checking, your savings account and money markets are a little different. So for purposes of this student doesn't have anything. The other thing that's new, parents, if you own a business, you have to report the value of the net value of your business. In years past, you only had to report that if you had a business with more than 100 employees. Now it doesn't matter even if you're a sole proprietor, whatever the value of your business is. And that means what the business is worth minus debt for all your accounting majors, and whatever's left, that's the net value of your business. So your business may be worth $1 million, but you got $999,999 in debt. That would make your business worth $1. Okay, but that's something new. That's also new this year on the FAFSA. And this next one is going to ask about your college selection. So remember, I told you they allow you now up to 20 schools you can list. I'm not, for purposes of this exercise, I'm not going to list 20 schools. I was just trying to tell my daughter called. I'm just going to let her know that I'm on the Zoom. Oh, she'd say let me just send this to her. She's saying I can't get in. So I'm just going to send this to her. So you would start by the state that the college is in. So let's just, for giggles, let's use the state of Georgia, right? You would put the city. Now, remember, this is pre-populated, so, but in real life, it would have the different cities. If you don't know the city, don't worry about it. Just put the school's name, okay? Because most of the time, you know the school's name. I'm trying to find a Georgia school. Well, Emory. There we go. We're going to search. And this is a prototype, but in real life, Emory will pop up there. But you may also, you want to be very careful because some schools have a medical school, a law school, or this. You want to make sure you're selecting the correct one. For purposes of this exercise, only for purposes of this exercise, we just won't select anything. Okay? So we can keep it moving. But in real life, it would be the schools in that, if you put, let's say you put Spelman College would pop up in Georgia, and that's what you would select. So then what you're going to do is, excuse me, I'm so sorry. It also gives you the list of, it also gives you information you can view about that college, like its graduation rates and things like that, if that's of interest to you. Okay. This is really going slow tonight, and I don't know why. Well, no, I do know why. The federal government is doing what it does. Okay, and you would select the school and you would just keep going. And you would add as many schools as you're applying to, up to 20. Okay. Come on. All right. Now, we're at the end. Take a moment to review before, excuse me, signing. You want to hit the expand button to make sure the information that's there is accurate. Okay, name, date of birth, social security number, or if someone has a ITIN number, mobile, email. Students, if there are any students on or parents, do not use your school email address. Use your personal email address, because once you graduate school, your school email account is deactivated, and your email is the way the federal student aid communicates with you. So your personal email address. Okay, you're gonna make sure all of the information is accurate. All right, and then we're just gonna go to the end, because actually you're now at the end. Okay, and remember I told you this is a prototype, so in real life, it's going to give you the summary, and then at the very end, it will say so it may say, I, Vanessa Sparks, agree to the terms outlined above. I will select yes, sign and submit. Now, in real life, once you do that, it's going to give you your SAI. Okay, now we're not finished because remember, the parent has to do their section. So it says, congratulations. Let me just, that I completed it on this date, and you would get your student aid index. It would be here. But remember, now in real life, it'll tell you that it's not complete, that your parent has to fill out their section. Okay, but I hope this was a little helpful. Okay, so let's just go out of this and stop sharing. Okay, stop share. Hold on. Okay, everything is like freezing up tonight. Come on. All right. So we went through this FAFSA. I want any questions regarding FAFSA. Any questions? I want questions to come flying at me. Flying at me. Oh, that's a nice picture.
There is a question in the chat.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, in the chat it goes, I am a parent of a senior graduating in June. I am pregnant and due in the end of March. I will have 3 kids in total. I will be out on disability due to family leave. I am a single parent. When can we change the FAFSA we already submitted? Because our circumstances has changed a lot.
Excellent question. So I don't know if you remember, we talked about that special circumstances category. And it asked, well, in the real FAFSA, I don't know, in the prototype, special circumstances. So if you've already submitted your FAFSA and it's based on the 2022 tax return and your financials are different now than they were then, which they are, what I'm going to encourage you to do is send an email to every school that your student has applied to. You send an email and let them know that you have special circumstances. Now, you can also log back into the FAFSA and under the not unusual circumstances, special circumstances. And you would indicate that you are about to give birth. You now have 3, you will have 3 children instead of 2 children. You will be on family leave for whatever the length of time is, and your income is going to go from here to whatever it is. But I'm going to also encourage you to every school that your child has applied to send an email to send it to the financial aid office and CC the admissions office. And do
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So CC the admissions office and the financial aid office.
You can send it to the or send it to the admissions office and CC the school's financial aid office, because you are creating a track. You know, you are documenting. Yes, in case they come back to you and say, well, we didn't get anything, you can say, no, on this date, I communicated with you. And because sometimes when you email some of these places, it kind of goes, they may not get it immediately. So I'm just giving you some tips. If you CC the admissions office, I'm sorry, if you email the admissions office, CC the financial aid office, or if you email the financial aid office, CC the admissions office. So that way everybody is clear, because this is not a returning student. This is a first-time student.
Correct. Thank you.
You're welcome. I want the questions fast and furious.
Because Reverend Thorbs, is that?
Yes.
You want to go ahead?
Hello, Ms. Vanessa. Great presentation as always. Can you speak briefly on, I know we were in Albany together in regards to, we sat at the FAFSA workshop together. What about what they said in regards to continuing education?
Yes, yes. I want to give 2 pieces of brand new, hot off the presses news. So first of all, this is, as we didn't talk about it tonight, and if you like, I will come back and do a part 2, because we did not talk about state aid and we did not talk about institutional aid. But for New York State residents, we have, as you know, the TAP app, TAP, or it's administered under the New York State Higher Education Service Corporation. Well, for the first time ever, they will allow TAP to be used if you are taking a continuing education course. So, you know, many of the colleges have their Office of Continuing Education, and these are usually, you know, courses that are, you know, a couple of months or a couple of weeks long. Well, they now will allow you to apply and receive TAP to pay for those courses, which is great. And that's really great for adults. So there may be a technology class, you know, a class on, you know, I don't know, Microsoft Word or whatever that you want to take at your local college. And that falls under their Office of Continuing Education. And usually those programs could be anywhere from a couple of $100 to up to, depending on the course, $1,000 or $2,000. Well, now you will be able to apply and if eligible, receive TAP money to pay for those courses. So that is great. And that is most would be used by adults that just want to take a course at their local college. The other thing that's been introduced, and I'm sorry his name escapes me, but he is an assemblyman from Brooklyn. He has introduced legislation at the state legislature to make FAFSA completion a graduation requirement in the state of New York. That's also something new. It hasn't been voted on yet, but he has introduced it to make the completion of the FAFSA a graduation requirement. If a student, but the student's parent has the option to waive and opt out of it or waive it, but there is legislation, or it has been introduced to make completion of the FAFSA part of the New York State graduation requirements. Thank you, Reverend Thorpe.
You're welcome.
Any
Vanessa,
other questions?
yeah, Vanessa, did you want to get into the scholarships and just ask those,
Yes.
answer those 3 questions?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. So let's talk about scholarships. I actually even want to go to that page. I want to just definitely talk about scholarships. And I'm going to talk honest about scholarships, okay? I want to get, hold on. I haven't, you know, shared it yet, but let me just say this. There are millions of scholarships out there, honestly. One of the, and this is my opinion, other than not knowing about them, one of the hindrances for many of our students applying and receiving scholarships is that you have to write essays to receive scholarships. And unfortunately, far too many of our students are terrified of writing and because they don't write well. Okay? And that's just the truth. We have scholarships anywhere, there's scholarships anywhere from $100 all the way up to $40,000. I'm going to say, always start with your local library. Their sections and their books on a variety of scholarships. Look in your community. So I'm going to start with some big scholarships, and I'm going to talk about some small scholarships. So probably the premier scholarship, I would say, in the country, or if not the premier, one of the premier scholarship is the Gates Scholarship, right? Because the Gates Scholarship, if awarded, pays for all 4 years of college, okay? You still have to do the FAFSA, but it will meet all unmet needs. But here's the thing about the Gates Scholarship. It is only for students that are Pell eligible. Students that are not Pell eligible cannot apply for the Gates Scholarship. But it is a extremely detailed application. It's like you do it online. It's like 8 long pages. I'm sorry. I think you got to write about 8 essays or something like that. It is a very, 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 very challenging scholarship, and I encourage families that if they're looking at that, they actually should start preparing for that their kid's sophomore year, because it is such a detailed application. Another premier scholarship is the Ron Brown Scholarship for African American students. That's a $40,000 a year. I'm sorry, it's a $40,000 scholarship, 10,000 over for each 4 years. But it also comes with a lot of internship perks and things like that. That is probably one of the most prestigious scholarships for African Americans. The Jackie Robinson Scholarship. So I'm talking about some of the big ones. So let's bring it down to a local level. The New York Urban League Scholarship is about to open up. And last year I was actually a reader, one of the readers for that scholarship. And I'm going to tell you, you have to write essays for that scholarship too. You don't have to write 8 essays, but you have to write an essay. And they give you the topics. So one of the things I'm going to say to parents and any students, you have to become comfortable with writing because you're going to be required to write essays. And I find that that is the biggest hindrance for our students is that once they realize they have to write essays or write an essay, it terrifies them. It terrifies them. So if you are a junior or even a sophomore, you want to get into practice now of writing essays. If you have a teacher or someone at your school that you can go to somebody put it already open and it closes on the 29th. Thank you. So, but you still have time. But writing. Now, what I will tell everybody, and I don't know if I can drop it in the chat, I'm going to try. But UNCF, United Negro College Fund, UNCF just doesn't give scholarships to students attending member HBCUs. UNCF has scholarships for students attending any college, whether it's a HBCU or not. So to just give you an example, the year of the pandemic, there was a UNCF scholarship for $5,000 only for New York City. I believe it was only, I'm not sure if it was just public school, but you had to be graduating from a New York City school. And I think it was a New York City public school. And you can identify as either Black, Hispanic, or Native American. And it was wherever you went to school, and it was for $5,000. Most people, and you know, this was at the, you know, this was the year of the pandemic, so definitely people weren't, you know, but UNCF has thousands of scholarships. They're the administrator of thousands of scholarships. So what I am going to tell you, and I will send it to the organizers, the first two, let me see if I can find it, but the first Tuesday of every month, UNCF has a webinar for scholarships. Let me see if I can pull it up, and then I will share it with you with the date. It is the the second Tuesday of every month. Okay, so I just want to, let me see if I can share this here so everyone can see. But the second Tuesday of every month, starting in September going to May, UNCF does webinars on the scholarships they offer, and they're thousands. I mean thousands. So this is where you would go, and if you can see here, you can sign up so you would be notified when the webinar, you know, is about the song. But it's the second Tuesday of every month.
I'm sorry, Vanessa, I'm sorry, this is Judge Nera. We're gonna have to guess wrap it up because it's coming up on time. But we need a part 2, Vanessa. We have to bring you back. We're gonna have to bring you back to do the scholarship piece because this is just so deep and so rich. But I just want to have you finish your comment there.
No, I just wanted to say the second Tuesday of every month, if you go to the UNCF website, sign up so you'll be notified about their monthly webinars. They run from September to May, I believe.
Excellent. does Vanessa have contact information?
Yes, let me put my I most certainly do. So I will put it here in the chat.
And if
I hope this was helpful.
I guess, if folks felt this was helpful, you could show some love, just throw up a sign, clap your hands. Okay.
Yes.
All right, folks. I know that it was helpful. I know that, yep, there we go. There go all the hands. Vanessa has put her email account in the chat there for you. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Ms. Black, our partner, to come in and just give us some closing remarks from our partner organization. Ms. Black.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Sparks, for that phenomenal workshop. It was so intense. You have a wealth of information to share. So as they say, we have to get you back again. So we really appreciate you there. Thank you, President Victor Green, for inviting us to partner with you. We are the National Council of Negro Women at Queens County Section. And that is part of our mission. Now, part of our mission is to partner with our local community organizations. And so we take pleasure in doing this. And we will hopefully do it on the reverse, where we can also have you partner with us to do some of our workshops, because we can only get it out if we all work together. So we really need to continue doing these kind of collaborations. So just again, we are, like I said, the National Council of Negro Women Queens County Section. The Queens County Section has been around for like 37 years of the 88 years of the National Council of Negro Women. And we work mostly in Queens. We have of course, we have other branches. But our job is just to do as we're doing tonight, and that is to connect and educate and inform women, children, families of the Black community. So we want to continue doing that. Again, we appreciate you. Thank you so much, everybody who was on the call and who, and spread the word. This was something that was beneficial for more people. I'm sure if you let people know how great it was, the next time around, they will, we can get more people on to get this valuable information, because we need our folks to be engaged and knowledgeable about this college application process. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for all the participants, the background participants, as well as the ones who are speaking. And thank you for the National Coalition of Black Women, 100 Black Women, for the invitation and the collaboration. You can look for us also in our social media at National Council of Negro Women, Queens County Section. Again, thank you and good night. Have a great night.
Thank you, Ms. Black. We do have a few more remarks from Vanessa Sparks. Vanessa, did you want to?
Yes. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the National Council of Negro Women Manhattan chapter, as well as the Queens chapter, the Queens section. I'm sorry, your section. So I want to say thank you, Madam President Green, Madam President, Miss Black. Thank you so much. And I'm here. As I said earlier, you do not have to be so formal with me. We are all part of a very large family, if you think of it like that. And our job, at least for me, is for each one of us to bring whatever talents that we've been given to help one another. But I do want to say this because I know there's someone who is a parent from a question on here, and I want to say this. I want you, wherever your daughter goes to school, make sure you sign something called a FERPA form, which stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Once your children get to college, 18 is legal. 18 is not grown. So because it's legal, the school will not share any information with you about what's going on with your child in any capacity. However, there is something called a FERPA. and you will sign a FERPA waiver, and it will allow you to have limited access to a lot of your child's academic information. Also, parents, if you have kids going, I don't care where they go to college, make sure you get a HIPAA form and have it on file. Because as I said, once they're 18, they're legal. However, we know they're not grown. If something, heaven forbid, happens and your child needs somebody to speak on their behalf, that HIPAA form is in place that will allow you to make decisions about your students. So that's what I just wanted to add.
Perfect. More nuggets. All right. Well, thank you so much from the coalition. Jennifer, did you want to say something? Get some final words?
Yes. Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you everyone who attended tonight. And thank you to both of our organizations that I belong to, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women and the National Council of the Queens County section for partnering on this amazing event.
All right.
And we do need a part 2.
Absolutely. We'll have to get that done. And and we can get the information out about this particular event.
I'll be happy to do a part 2 and a part 3 if necessary, because things are happening as we are speaking as well.
Perfect. All right then, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to spend with us tonight. I hope you got something out of it. And don't, the National Council of Negro Women and NCBW 100 are here to help and here to serve. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Right. Have a good night.